Cathy, good morning.
Hi.
Is
Welcome.
Thank you. Still a good time to get a condo tour?
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Milwaukee. Here's my Milwaukee poster. And at one point, all these posters are in my family home growing up. Here's the 20th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, Selma to Montgomery March 1985. An anti-war Vietnam War poster from the late 60s or early 70s. There's no date on it. This 1969 poster was in my bedroom when I was in high school. And of course, the Beatles. As you can see, child of the 60s, here are some of my favorite album covers from that time period. Joni Mitchell, Blind Faith, Laura Nyro, Peter, Paul and Mary, Simon and Garfunkel, the Beatles, Mamas and Papas. Emmett Rhodes, I was not a huge fan, but it's a great cover. And then, of course, we have Buddy Miles, Earth, Wind and Fire, Jimmy Cliff, Roberta Flack. Music of my youth, which I still love. After Milwaukee, I've lived other places, but LA for 3 years, New York for 16 years, and now Chicago since 1997. I think Chicago's the greatest. I love it. And one of the best things about Chicago, for me at least, is the 18-mile bike path that goes along the lakefront here. I love it. As you will see in my house, my furnishings are all from the 80s and 90s, from when I lived in New York, because I don't want to spend money on updating. I just like it the way it is. Sort of fits my personality, just to spend money on travel and things like that than on furniture. So I have 2 sons who are grown up, and I have 2 grandsons who are adorable. And here's some pictures of them, mixed in with tchotchkes I've collected from my travels. And here are my sons when they were very young. And my grandsons with their daddy, Ben. This is my son, Josh. All my grandparents were from Russia or Ukraine. My dad came over as an immigrant. My mom was born in Milwaukee. Here she is, and she's like a year old, probably a year and a half. These are like pictures from Russia. My dad was with the Cubs for about 6 weeks in 1937.
Wow.
He was with spring training. This is at Catalina Island. He didn't make the team, but he played minor league ball until World War II, and then he fought in the war. Here he is a soldier, and here he is playing. It's a picture of my parents on their honeymoon in Cuba. I would say my passions are, besides my friends, my kids and my grandkids, and travel, and sometimes I combine them. As before the grandkids were born, I took my sons and their wives to Portugal. So here are some pictures of doing that. Yes, but I've done bike trips in Lithuania, Latvia, Turkey, Spain, did also Camino Trail hiking in Spain, South Africa, and now Italy. Instead of getting new furniture, I collect masks. And most of these masks I've bought from various countries along the way. Some have been given to me by friends and family who know I collect masks. The pink one's from Nicaragua. Actually, that really nice one with the headdress like I bought in Alaska. This one is from Africa. We've got Southeast Asia, Africa, Argentina, the Argentine-Brazilian border. I went to the Iguazu waterfalls there a long time ago. Cambodia, Mexico. So I've also collected, just evolved over the years, purses from around the world where I've been, and then also some jewelry. So this is one of my favorites. This is a necklace I bought in the market in Istanbul. I saw it, I immediately loved it. I am totally not a shopper, so it's very unusual for me that I'm like, oh my God, I want that. And I bought it, and I knew That was in 2010 that both my sons would be getting married in the next few years, and that necklace is what I'd wear to both weddings, and I did. And I've worn it to other weddings and events too. The silver purse is actually from Russia. It was, my mom gave it to me, and it was her mom's before that. This was from Riga, Latvia, my first bike trip. This I bought in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, all beaded. And this I bought in Spain at the end of the Camino Trail. And I had this one young couple at my house for over 5 months, and one was going from England, and one was going through pastry school, and he made these. They're made out of a sugar paste, and I got to keep them when they left. And they're still friends of mine. They just live a few miles from me.
These are beautiful.
So I got interested in photography in high school and took a photography class, and then I graduated early and went to Israel about 6 months, and I took these pictures there. It's from a Palestinian wedding.
Wow.
We got to go to. A friend of mine.
What year did you say this was?
1972. Wow. I think this was in Yaffo, in a market. This is in a park bench in Jerusalem, near the post office, if I remember right. This was, more than 50 years ago. Woman walking down the street, obviously. Here are other photographs I took, and a friend of mine who's a really good photographer said, print them on metal. And I did, and I loved it. So these are from Myanmar, these two. And this was a hot air balloon ride over Bagan, a lot of temples and they call it stupas.
What year did you say this was?
Myanmar this is January 2008. This is a shot of Cappadocia, Turkey, which is otherworldly. 2010. Did a bike trip there. And career-wise, I've been a journalist my whole career. I'll skip to the highlights, and one of them was working at 60 Minutes in the 80s when I lived in New York. And I was Diane Sawyer's associate producer when she started at the show. And then later on, starting in 94, I jumped to Dateline after spending 7 years home with my kids and freelancing for the New York Times. I went to Dateline, and Jane Pauley and Stone Phillips were the original anchors. I got involved in this story called about Pam Hupp and Russ Faria back in late 2013, which turned into a big deal. I've now done 6 stories for Dateline about the Pam Hupp, Russ Faria saga, and the story was made into a miniseries starring Renee Zellweger, which aired in 2022. Besides being a producer on it, at one point, Pam Hupp pretended to be me to rope some unsuspecting person into her scheme and murdered him.
That's tough.
Yeah, so I ended up in the miniseries as well because I ended up part of the story.
I love that.
And I was absolutely shocked when I found out she had done that. Yeah, so this couch is from 1988 when we lived on Long Island. The bookcases, 1995. I especially love living on this block. It's tree-lined. In the summer, it's almost canopied. People have beautiful gardens along the sidewalk. It's very quiet, but it's near a lot of major streets, a lot of restaurants, a lot of activity. Boys Town is right here. I just love it.
Yeah.
So, did win an Emmy along the way. It was a very big group effort. It was when Elizabeth Smart, who had been abducted from her home when she was 14, was found 9 months later alive. And on a Wednesday, and we all, lots of us flew out there, I was the lead field producer and the correspondence producer that day for that shoot. And 48 hours later, it aired as an incredibly detailed story on Dateline. And in 2003, we won an Emmy for it.
That's amazing.
And before that, I won a Gracie for a story that also was actually a crash, which means a quick turnaround story. What a producer does in long form TV like Dateline, you either pitch a story that gets bought or you get assigned a story and you research it, you figure out if it really is a story, then you talk to people, you book them, and then you go out and travel to do that, and then you set up the shoot. You try to do it in an efficient way, and then you go out there and shoot it with crews and the correspondent and over like a week, and then you write the script. Then you give it to the senior producer and the correspondent who make it better, and then you work with editors, and you're in charge of the entire thing. You have to make sure there's licensing for everything that you haven't shot yourself, photographs, home video, things like that. Fact check. You're in charge of the whole thing when it airs, and I found that very gratifying. You wear a lot of different hats, and I really like that. But COVID hit in 2020, and I was up there in years, and they offered buyouts, and so I took it, although I freelanced a few times since then for Dateline, including doing the 6th episode on the whole Pam Hupp-Russ Faria saga called The Real Thing About Pam, which you can find online.
Oh my God.
Myanmar.